I was listening to the story about, it was a story of a family in Washington, and the little boy called the Bigfoot the Cowboy Man. And he had, apparently it had made an effort to steal this kid. And it hit me. My children were in that playpen behind me with nothing but a mosquito net over them. It could have crept up behind me and taken both of my children, and I wouldn't have known.
His father just got like a Mustang or something from Wyoming, okay? He had it out in the corral because he couldn't put it in the barn in the stalls with the other horses because it would kick and made all the other horses nervous. Had a Seminole Indian working the horse trying to break it every day. So they had it out in the corral. This skunk ape snuck up behind this horse and grabbed it on its hind quarters. This particular horse kicks out, jumps over the corral, runs into the pasture, to get away. At this point, the rancher's out there just blasted away with the dirty. Skunk ape runs into the swamp.
I went up there one day after that, or 2 days after that. I went up there and sat in the silence up there, and I'm telling you, man, it was free. It was crazy. There was a crazy vibe up there still. I did what I could to kind of get things under control, but I told her, I said, you need to get off this property. I feel like no matter how strong you are, it's almost like standing in the ocean. You can't stand still without moving your feet. You're going to get knocked over eventually, no matter how strong, whatever. You can't withstand a barrage of weird spiritual energy.
What is up, everybody? I am your host for the evening, Mr. Wayne. He would be on this side if you're watching YouTube on the phone. He's not here. I'm flying solo, and we have a kick-ass guest. I had so much fun talking to him at the beginning. So before we get into all the bills and all this stuff, since I am flying solo, I will not be able to keep up with the chat as much as I normally do. So have mercy on me there. Let's see. Today, I think it's today, is Cecilia's 4th birthday, which is where Wayne is, in the cabin with an indoor pool. Probably a glass of whiskey neat in his hand. I would have to say that that's where he is right now, watching the show. I was sent these pictures. That is Cecilia and her pops. So I am sure that she is having a great time. And that's the other one. Look how cute she is. She is 4 years old. That's crazy. They grow up fast. So before I pay the bills, he's not here to banter with me. So before I get into the bills, I want to wish Cecilia a very, very happy 4th birthday. Birthdays are magical days. I love my birthday. It is treated as a national holiday at our house. So Cecilia, happy birthday. I hope that it's everything that you could imagine it would be. So let's get in to paying the bills. It's very hard to do this by yourself. Wayne used to do it by himself all the time. I just think it's better to have like half of a person, not take up the whole screen. Not liking that. Anyways, so if you are new to the show, please hit that subscribe button and help Wayne and I continue to grow the show. It is very much appreciated. If you would like to be on with Wayne and I, you can reach out to both of us, Wayne at paranormalworldproductions.com or me, Tiffany at paranormalworldproductions.com. And we just filled up the last day in February. We have 3 Tuesdays left in March and 1 Saturday left in March. So please, please reach out to us. Speaking of paranormalworldproductions.com, all of our other shows are over there. And if you go over there, you can get a copy of Brian King Sharp's book, and you can also get it autographed. So, but you have to go to paranormalworldproductions.com to do that. This is imperative. Imperative. Please put all of your questions in capital letters for me. Again, I usually do all the questions. I usually throw up all the comments on there. It's going to be a little tricky this evening. So please put them in all capital letters for me. I will see them, highlight them, ask them at the end of the show in a rapid fire Q&A. Also, manimalresearch.org. This is Wayne's organization he founded in 2019 because he was tired of all the BS and all of the, well, we're just going to say BS. So he started his own research organization, and you can find it at manimalresearch.org. Chris Blaylock has done a phenomenal job with this website, and we can't thank her enough for that. Let's see. This was supposed to go up already. Down at the bottom, you can see super stickers are always welcome. But again, for those of you who are here every week, you know that the YouTube channel likes to take out their fees. So if you wanted to send something our way, you can send it to Wayne's Cash App or his Venmo. And we always split everything 50-50 on the show, if you would like to do it that way. Also, our membership, $1.99, you guys, $1.99, that's it. You can have a members Discord, members only, where we come in here, we watch spooky videos, we just sit in here and shoot the breeze with each other. It's just super fun. The Discord, we get on there and chat, FaceTime, share stuff. There's so much that's involved that we do for this $1.99. We don't think it's fair to charge any more than $1.99. So we're asking just that little bit of amount to give you everything. And this month, for the February free-for-all, it's our giveaway. So if you join this month, your name will be put into a drawing for some pretty stellar prizes that we have coming your way. So that, I believe, is all. It was very rushed, and I'll tell you why. Because I was talking to our guest, and I told him through Messenger, hey, I'm ready if you are. And he was like, and I'm like, the show, good and well what I'm talking about. And he was so funny. It reminded me so much of Wayne, because Wayne does that stuff to me all the time. He was like, hey, do we have a show tonight? So our guest is Daniel Hamilton, and you guys probably know him. He is the host of the Cryptid podcast, as well as the co-host to Mysteries Unknown with Josh. So without further ado, I'm going to bring him out. Hello.
Hey, Tiffany, how's it going?
Good. I'm so glad you're here to fill up that other half.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here.
I'm glad that you took the time out, because I know your schedule's like hopping between your podcast and.
Yeah, that's putting it mildly. Yeah. That's definitely putting it mildly.
Well, because I know how, I do the scheduling for Brian King Sharp also on Sasquatch Odyssey. So, and then reaching out to people for this show and then that show. And it's quite time consuming. So well, I really appreciate you taking the time.
It's good knowing that, because one, some people may not like it when I say this, but Brian King Sharp is one of my favorite people. I've been on his show. I love him. I love Danny. I like what they're doing with the community. I like how he takes his approach to it. He calls people out when they need to be called out.
Yes.
He's not afraid to do that. Sometimes I think that he may call out someone, that maybe may not deserve to be called out. But you know what? Hey, Brian has his reasons. He knows why he's doing what he's doing. And I have to respect that. So when I was on his show a while ago, probably maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, maybe, I really enjoyed our candid conversation we had before, and then the interview. I only shared a couple. I believe I shared just a couple of encounters that I had. Some of my, I kind of keep close to myself. Not that I don't trust Brian or anybody else that I've been on. I've been on Sasquatch Chronicles. I've been on the Confessionals with Tony Merkel. I don't know. I think I've been on like 2 or 3 more. But with Mysteries Unknown, my buddy Josh, we just talked about this today. I didn't think that we were going to become as close as we are. I just answered a post. Hey, if you had an encounter, I'd like to come on the show. And it took him a month to get back to me, know, and then because he was really, really busy. And now I look at Josh Smith as my brother, like legit my brother.
Right.
I lost my little brother in 2016. He was only 42 years old, died of a heart attack. And that's a hole that's in my heart, in my soul, pretty much that still isn't filled. But when Josh came along and we just clicked the way we clicked, it helped. It's eased that pain a lot. So, I'm fiercely loyal to Josh. I'm fiercely protective of Josh.
Yeah.
And I'm just out here with him. We're trying to build his brand, build my brand, get information out to people that are interested in this topic, maybe educate them on some things. Definitely, we always say we're not trying to change your mind. We're just trying to open your eyes in the probability that you may finally give it a chance to understand exactly something may be out there. Tens of thousands of sightings and encounters that are pretty much the same thing or of the same thing or in, similar areas. Something's going on.
They can't all be lying.
No.
They're seeing something, whether it's Bigfoot or paranormal. I mean, these people are seeing something.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So to segue from that, how did you get your start in the cryptid fascination, paranormal?
Well, Mr. Bob Gimlin, Mr. Leonard Nimoy, seeing the Patterson Gimlin film and seeing In Search of with Leonard Nimoy as a kid instantly sparked my my interest. I lived in Washington State at the time. And so, you're hearing Northern California, maybe, possibly in Oregon, hopefully up in Washington State. And I had always, whenever we had library time in school, I would run to library. And while all the kids are going to whatever, I mean, I didn't really pay attention to what they were looking for. I was looking for stuff that had anything to do with Bigfoot. And unfortunately, I wish I could remember the name of the book, but there was only really one book, and it had, it had a small little thing about Bigfoot in there, the Loch Ness Monster, and a couple other things. I just really don't remember. But that's a book that I had pretty much checked out the entire year. So if anybody knew me in elementary school up in Washington State and you're watching tonight, I'm sorry I hogged that book, but that's what got my interest in cryptids. And then it really, it really didn't manifest, into what it is now until 1984 when I had my one and only sighting. And then after that, I knew they were real. And when the internet came out, I was able to do a lot of more investigation, see videos, listen to things. A lot more literature was out by then. And I had always set myself up a checklist, and I wish I still had. I actually had a checklist written down. And as I would listen to these stories, listen to these sounds, listen to this audio, listen to this, watch this video, or read these stories, I'm checking things off on this list. And I'm like, I remember I heard that when I was this age. I remember experienced something like that when I was this age. So it was prior to 1984, when I was 12, that I now, realize that I actually had other encounters, not sightings. And to this day, I will not say definitively it was Bigfoot, Sasquatch, because I never had a visual. But everything that I've heard, everything that I experienced is matching up with all of these other encounters and other stories. What else could it be?
Right.
And then I had my last encounter in 1992. That was the year my little brother graduated high school, and we shared that encounter. I've shared it a few times. It seems like each time that I share it gets a little easier, but there's still a heavy emotional attachment to it. That I can still see my little brother, the look on his face. I can still hear the fear in his voice. So it kind of makes me weepy at times, but so that's pretty much the timeline with my fascination with cryptids. Paranormal is a completely different story. I've had paranormal experiences since as far back as I can remember. I remember seeing a giant ball of light in the corner of my bedroom when I was in kindergarten, living in West Virginia. Hearing voices, seeing something move out the corner of my eye, having conversations with full body apparitions as they were right there.
Really?
Yeah. One summer before second grade, I had a relationship. Now, when I say relationship, 2 kids,
Mm-hmm.
2, second grade, so it's 2, 6-year-old kids.
Mm-hmm.
Come to find out years later, when I was a teenager, freshman in high school, that relationship I had was with a ghost.
Well, I would love to hear more about that if you'd like to
Sure.
delve into that. That's interesting.
Sure. I've experienced things when I was in the military. I had experience with a doppelganger. My senior year, or summer before my senior year, had probably the most terrifying encounter with what people call the crawler or a rake, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty crazy. Was physically touched by a ghost while stationed FE 1 Air Force Base in Cheyenne, Wyoming. Let's see what else.
Well, you have, the floor is yours.
Sure.
If you want to, we're here for the Bigfoot. We're here
Sure.
for the paranormal. The floor is yours, pal. Let's get into some of this. Because it's a Saturday show and we ain't got to be out of here at 10.
Okay,
or
perfect.
11, my time.
So let's see here. Crystal is saying, here for the ghosties. Okay, so Crystal, this one's for you. I'm going to go ahead and start with the ghost story.
Awesome.
We'll start off with the one, the one that pretty much I remember kicking off was, yeah, it'd be Florida, Lakeland, Florida, right before second grade. Now, my parents were divorced when I was really young. The hub for me was Washington State. That's where my dad lived. I primarily lived with my dad most of my life. But there were certain times that I had a step parent that didn't particularly care for me. I was one of those kids like, you're not my mom or you're not my dad. I know what I'm supposed to do, what I'm not supposed to do. And you don't have to really worry about me, breaking rules that I should be breaking. This particular time, my dad was on his second marriage, my first stepmom. She did not care for me, demanded that I moved with my mom. At this time, they were living in Lakeland, Florida, with her second husband, or her third. Both my parents were married 4 times, so we'll just throw that out there, you guys. Okay, so fourth time was a charm for both of them. So my mom was on her third marriage, and I had to move back to Florida, or move to Florida, where my mom and my stepdad were living. They were long haul truck drivers. They worked for a company that opened up a satellite office in Lakeland. It was based out of Grand Junction, Colorado. So here I am, right before second grade, go to Florida. And the things that I remember the most is like taking Magnum PI and thinking that Florida and Magnum PI were synonymous with each other. I remember going to the beaches, going here, but where we lived in Lakeland, huge plot of land, and 10, 15, 20 acres, I don't know. Had a big house on it, had a great big garage on it. It had plenty of spaces where truck drivers for this company could come to the satellite office, hook up with a new trailer, empty trailer. They were refrigeration trailers, so they hauled produce and sides of beef and stuff like that. Could hook up a new trailer, leave an old trailer there, leave their truck there to be serviced or whatever. It was right next to an orange grove, orange and grapefruits. And I remember when we got there, I asked my stepdad, I go, school's coming up. Where do I catch the bus? And he goes, well, down there by that, that little like shack down there. I've seen buses stop there. I'm like, okay, so this doesn't have anything to do with this ghost at this time, but just so you know, this is how terrifying it was for a kid who's like 6 years old. Right. So I go running down there and I want to check this thing out because it kind of looks like a little fort. So I walk in, I run in, and I feel like he was playing a joke on me because I ran into like fishing string.
Oh no.
And I'm like, what? And I'm going like this. And when I'm brushing off my face, I realize it's not fishing string. It's spider web.
Oh, that's even worse.
And I look up in the corner, and I kid you not, Tiffany, that freaking spider was probably that big around, and it was eating a lizard.
Shut up.
It was snacking on a lizard. And I'm like, are you so I freaked out. I go flying back up to the house, tell my stepdad. He's like, oh, it's just a little spider, blah. You think you're seeing. Now,
it's eating a lizard, Dad. A lizard.
this man, I go, Steve, it is a giant spider. It's the size of a baseball. And actually, it's probably the size of a racquetball, but still it's big.
Big.
He comes running out there to think I'm over exaggerating, and I had never seen a man push a 6-year-old kid out of the way so fast to get out of there. He runs up to the house. He gets a gun and he shoots it. And he goes,
hell yes.
And he goes, that's not where you catch the bus. So, a little while after that, I'm exploring all this property. We had a little toy poodle named Charlie. He was a little black toy poodle, just a cute little guy. He was my shadow. Everywhere I went, he was there. It was just awesome. I had like a best friend, So we're exploring this property, and I come across this pond. And I'm like, man, this is a pretty nice pond, maybe a half an acre size pond. And I'm looking around, and I see frogs, and I see turtles, and I see a catfish come up and gulp some air. I'm like, yep, I'm fishing. It's time to go fishing. I'm trying to catch turtles, frogs, and fish. So I run back to the house, and I get everything. I go running back, cast my line out, spend a good 2-3 hours there. Nothing. Go back home, get up the next day, go back down, cast out my line and stuff. No luck on the fish or frogs or turtles. So I'm out there, and I just my dog Charlie just kind of looks up and kind of whimpers a little bit. And I'm like, So I look up, and there's this little girl standing there. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So I go and I'm like, hey, how's it going? And I get up to go talk to her, but she turns around, she kind of runs up this little embankment and then over the top of this embankment, then runs off into the orange orchard. Like, well, okay, that's weird. So this goes on for a couple of weeks, right? Finally get the nerve to where now we're actually talking. She sits next to me. Now, wherever side she was sitting on, my dog would always move to the other side. Always. And we would say things like, she was like, oh, you talk funny. You talk funny. And, because I lived in West Virginia, just came down here from Washington State. So I kind of had my wife calls my accent a mutt accent.
You're a mutt.
Because sometimes I can turn on my Southern charm. I can talk a little bit like this. Oh yeah, or I can come up here and talk like I'm from Minnesota, So it just, whenever I'm around people from down south, some of my buddies, my accent comes out really big. When I'm back home, I sound more like a West Coaster. And then up here, I got the whole Midwest thing going on. So we're talking, and her name's Annie, and I asked her, where do you live? She just points over to that way, and she's pointing towards the orange grove, and I'm like, okay. So we do this all summer long. Every single day I'm fishing, every single day she's there, every single day we're talking, and school started, and I'd go down like on the weekends, and I didn't see her anymore. So I'm like, oh, okay, that's weird. Went to school maybe 2 or 3 weeks, maybe a month into school, and knock on the door. And here's this older gentleman. And he's like, hi, folks. I've known you've been here since the beginning of summer. Sorry, I'm not being very neighborly. I own the orchard over here. Just want to let you guys know, if you'd like to have, fresh oranges, whatever, feel free to go ahead and pick anything. Be careful, the yellow jackets and stuff, but yeah, feel free. And I hear him say Orange Grove, and I come running up and I go, hey, I go, can that little girl come over and play one day after school? And he kind of looks at me. He's like, little girl. I go, yeah, Annie, little blonde haired girl. I saw her this summer. And he's like, nah, son. He goes, Annie went home. And in my mind, I'm thinking it's same thing like me. Okay, right. She's just visiting for the summer, and I'm like, oh, okay. So I go storm back in the room. Well, school starts, school ends. Step parent not particularly liking me that much, getting into it a little bit. I moved back to Washington State, live with my dad. And fast forward to my freshman year, I had just left Washington State to move back to now at this time Tennessee, and my mom. That's where my mom wound up staying. She was in the Navy. She got stationed at Naval Air Station Memphis in Millington, Tennessee. So that's where we were living. And we were going through one weekend. We were just going through photo albums, and I flipped the page, and there's Charlie. He's such a great dog, and he's carrying this branch that's so big. He's trying to carry it. At times his back legs would come up off the ground, and he's covered in this white sand, and that's sand that was around the area. And that was at the house in Lakeland. And I go, Mom, I go, that's Charlie. She's like, oh, she goes, he's such a good dog. I said, yeah. I said, hey, remember that little girl that I told you about? Yeah, Annie. And I said, I wonder what she's doing. I said, she's got to be, freshman high school with me. I wonder what she's doing. And my mom, she just kind of looks at me and doesn't even like candy coat it. She's like, son, she's like, Annie died.
Oh.
And I was like, I kind of get choked up about it, because I'm like, oh my gosh, and I go, how? Like when? And she's like, son, she goes, the next week, Annie's grandpa, that's who you met at the door, and her grandma and her mom showed up at the house. and wanted to let me know that they were so happy to know that Annie had found someone to talk to that summer.
Oh.
And I go, oh, okay. I go, but how she passed away? She's like, son, Annie drowned in that pond
No way.
a year before we moved in.
No way.
So for that entire, and I get a little emotional about it because you think about it. Here's just two kids, two
Yeah.
6-year-old kids, just laughing and talking, and we never held hands, we never put our arms around each other. It was just, we sat close together, but here I am for a whole summer. I'm having this relationship, this friend. I got this friend, and I had no clue that she had passed over.
That is fascinating.
Yeah.
But your dog knew. Charlie
he
didn't bother to share.
Yeah, and I'm 5, 6 years old, maybe 7, and he never showed aggression. It was always, I think he kind of picked up on my energy, picked up on her energy, and he kind of think, okay, she's good, he's safe, But yeah, that was that's my story about Annie.
That is wild.
Yeah.
Let's hop to your first encounter with your Bigfoot. I've heard some of them. I didn't listen to all of them because I like to have that blind reaction, when we talk.
So I'll just kind of go as much in chronological order as I possibly can.
Sure.
Some things I really, it's not that I'm scared to talk about them. It's just like it carries a lot of emotion with me at times. So
right. Just share whatever you're comfortable with. Like, don't push your limits.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
So I'll tell you, plenty of people have seen me break down on camera, so
yeah. Well, in some encounters, they just invoke that emotion.
Yeah.
So
this was, probably, gosh, I want to say, was I in 4th grade? I think I was in 4th grade, or it was between 3rd and 4th grade. I think this is one of the times my dad was single. So my dad really wanted to get me into hunting, and there was a place that my dad and my uncle always used to go, like a few hours northeast of Aberdeen, Washington. And so it was just me and my dad and my uncle. And this is one of the times my little brother was living with our mom. And so he's like, hey, do you want to go camping? And I'm like, well, no, I don't want to kill any animals. He's like, no. He goes, we're not going to hunt. Oh, yes, I'll have a rifle with me and stuff, It's not hunting season, but I just want you to sit up in the deer stand with me. I want to teach you some things. I'm like, okay. And I'm sure that's how the conversation went. I can't remember exactly what my dad said. You got to think about this. This is 40 something years ago.
Right.
So, we drive forever and a day, it seems like, from Tacoma, Washington, down to Aberdeen, and then pick up my uncle, and then we drive another 2 or 3 hours to the area. It's drive up this old logging road, and then there's an area that can pull vehicles over the side. This logging road ends, so it's not like it's a 700-mile logging road. It ends at a certain point. You can turn around and go back down the logging road. This is used. A lot of hunters would go through there. And my dad and my uncle included. So we stop at this one place. We go walking, hiking like about an hour in. We're going to stay, a couple nights there. And I don't really remember the first day setting things up. I don't remember much of anything. I kind of remember like the stream that was the stream was there and stuff. But what I remember the most is my dad and my uncle kind of took me off into the woods, and my uncle peeled off one area to go scouting. And then my dad, we continued up. And as we were coming up, like we were walking the stream if I remember, is on our left-hand side as we're walking up this trail that comes up and it's bordering the stream. You look up ahead and you see this tree, and there's a deer stand up there. Now, my dad never really, as far as I can remember, never really used a deer stand. But he said he wanted me to sit in this deer stand so we can be quiet, stay, out of the scent path of whatever. So we get up there, and he shows me it. He shows me the deer stand, kind of shows out somewhere game trails are, and then explains, which way they go and why. And we go back down, get up early the next morning before sunrise. And my uncle gets up, he heads off his way. My dad goes up when we go up towards that deer stand. Now we get up there, and again, it's before dawn, but it's the light. You can see the sun rise in a little bit. It's coming up, so it's not pitch black. And he says, "Go ahead and climb up in the tree." So I climb up the tree and up into the deer stand. It's big enough for him and me to sit in. He says, "Lower the rope down." He ties his knapsack to it, and I pull the thing up, and then he goes, "Lower it down again." So he ties his rifle up, and I pull it up, and he's already up in the tree before I get it pulled up. He grabs it, checks it out, sets it. Now he grabs a flashlight or whatever, and he's looking at his knapsack. He realizes he forgot something that he needed. And he goes, "Listen," he goes, "we're like a 30 to 45 minute walk from camp." He goes, "You're fine. You're okay. I'll leave a flashlight with you if you want." And by this time, the sun's coming up a little more, so you can see, you can start seeing now not just shapes, but you can actually make out, okay, that's an actual tree. And so he goes, "I'll be right back." Now, I believe my dad. My dad's like, "Okay."
Sure.
He says, "I'm going to be good. I'm going to be good." So I realized this is where a habit of mine started and continued through life as an adult, even hunting. So as I'm sitting in the deer stand and I'm listening to whatever sounds are around me, I start nodding off. So I stretched out, and my left foot was at the corner of the front part of the deer stand. Okay. And right behind that is like where the ladder was to come up.
Mhm.
So I'm nodding off. I got my head leaning back like this, and I just closed my eyes, and I'm just, you can feel yourself about to fall asleep,
Mhm.
and my foot jerks, and I'm thinking, "Oh, I've fallen asleep, you jerk." But now it's a lot lighter than it was before. I look down, and my boot is untied. And I'm like, "What the heck?" And I'm looking, I'm like, "Okay, there's a rail in there. Maybe maybe I did jerk,
Mhm.
and my bootlace got caught and untied." I'm like,
Right.
"Okay." So I tied it up again, and I stretch my legs out again. I'm just, again, observant. And then my eyes start getting heavy again. I start kind of dozing off. And then boom, my foot jerks a second time. And sure enough, my boot is untied. And I'm like, "Wait a minute, what?" And then "Dad, that's not funny." And I yell it, "Dad, that's not funny." I don't hear anything. I don't see anything. I'm like, "Okay, fine." So I go and I tie my boot again. And I'm acting like I'm nodding off, and I'm watching my boot. Now the sun's already up. It's coming up. Now you can see colors and everything. And I'm watching my boot. Well, off to the right-hand side, I hear this loud crack. Like something hit a tree or snapped a tree, or it was so loud it made me jerk. And I looked, and my eyes were focused over to my right, and my boot jerked again. I looked down, and my freaking boot was untied again. Now I stand up, and I'm losing it. Now this isn't this isn't like a span of an hour. This is probably within maybe a 25-minute, maybe 30 minutes, you know? And I'm like, Dad, this isn't funny. Why are you messing with me? Stop trying to scare me. You know what I mean? And I'm losing it. Now, as I'm looking out, okay, there's one of these animal paths, you know, they go, game trails go this way, and they intersect right behind where we are on this tree. So they intersect. So one goes down towards the trail, and the other one goes down this way, and you can see it where it's a little trail, and then it goes off into like this brush, trees, cropping area. And this other one kind of goes down towards the path where we walked up, and then branches off and goes off this way. So I'm assuming this one that goes off here to the right is going down towards the stream. This other one's going back up around into some wooded area over here. And I see my dad in the distance, and he's running up this hill. And he's like, what the F are you yelling at? You're going to scare anything that's out here. I go, yeah, real funny. Untying my boot. And he stops. And he's like, what are you talking about? I go, you untied my boot. He's like, son, I didn't untie your boot. I go, Dad, you untied my boot 3 times. I know you were messing with me. He's like, son, this is what I went to go get from camp. And again, I don't remember. I think it was like his cigarette holder or something like that. And that's what he needed, I guess. And he's like, this is what I went to go get. And he's like, what are you talking about? I said, Dad, I nodded off and my boot got untied 3 times. I heard a loud crack noise over here to the right, kind of right in behind me. And he goes, okay. He goes, stay put. So he goes and he walks underneath and he's looking around and I'm watching him. And then he goes around behind. So I stand up and I'm kind of like hugging the tree a little bit so I can see behind. And he's moving back and forth. And he stops and he bends down and he like puts his hand on the ground and he gets up real quick and he takes his rifle and he puts it at the ready.
Oh no.
And he immediately, I hear him go, shh, shh. It's a lever action. And he's like, Daniel, get out of the tree right now. And I'm like, Dad, he goes, get out of the effing tree. So I grab his knapsack, I toss it to the ground, I climb down the ladder. He meets me. He's like, listen. And he looks right at me, holds me by my shoulder. He's like, listen, run. Get back down to camp. Just go. I'll be right behind you. I'm like, okay. So before he got to me, he was like looking at this tree line because there was like a small clearing that was probably maybe 20, 25 yards. And then there was the wood line. And this was all thick woods. And when he stopped and got up, he started scanning left to right and then right to left, watching all this thing. Now, my dad was a Vietnam vet, 101st Airborne, 2 tours in Vietnam. My uncle, he was a Vietnam vet. I think he did 1, maybe 2 tours in Vietnam. My dad comes back, tells me what he tells me. So I start walking down. Not running, I'm walking down. He's like, I told you to effing run. Now go. And so I start running, but I'd stop to turn around and just make sure my dad was coming. And he would stop, scan, then he'd run up towards me a little bit, stop, scan, then run back towards me a little bit. And he caught me standing there watching me. He goes, get the lead out of your A and get moving. So we both hightail it back down. We both get down into we both get back down to the camp just as my uncle's coming in. And my dad is like, Daryl, effing funny. Why are you trying to scare Daniel up there? He's like, what are you talking about? He's like, you're up there messing with Daniel, aren't you? He's like, no, I just got back into camp. He goes, buddy, it's too warm out here. Nothing's going to be moving around. I'm not going to be able to see where they're going, things like that. He goes, and my dad's like, we got to go. And he pulls him aside. He says something. They start packing everything up and we take off. And that's like now that I know everything that I know by hitting my checklist, all the boxes are being marked. What else could it be?
Right. Do you think that they knew, though? They knew. Like your dad, with his actions of touching the ground and just immediately, Daniel, get out of here.
I don't think that my dad knew exactly what it was, but he knew something was not right. My dad survived 2 tours of Vietnam.
Right.
Because now, see, my dad and my uncle, they were raised in Alaska. And they were in Alaska before Alaska was a state. They were in Alaska when Alaska was a lot more wilder than it is today. And it's still considered one of the last wild places on earth.
Yeah.
My dad, to the day that he passed away, believed that he saw a werewolf up in Alaska. My dad also had a run-in with what he believes is the Kushtaka, which is the Native American up there. The Haidas and the Tlinkits, the Otter Man, and everybody. My dad told me the story before. He told me about the Kushtaka, right? And I started laughing at him. I go, half otter, half man, like the furry little cute, sea otters. And he's like, I'm telling you right now, Daniel. And my dad, he's not going to talk to hear himself talk.
Right.
He's not going to sit there and tell you something. He's just when he says something, he's saying it with conviction. He means it, and he goes, "It's not funny. It's not funny." He goes, "When you hear the elders talk about these things, it'll scare the living heck out of you." And I remember my dad always telling me when I was little, and what really it kind of caught me off guard at times, even when I still think about it. My dad I knew when my dad was in a great mood, he would whistle.
Yes.
And my dad could legit. He could whistle a song. Oh, that's Supertramp. He could whistle melody, everything, right? But he always told me, whenever him and I would go out in the woods or whatever, he would never whistle. Even though he was having a great time, he would never whistle. And I always asked him, and that's when he told me about the Kushtaka. I started laughing at him. He goes, "Don't ever, ever whistle in the woods. If you hear whistling in the woods, get out.
Leave. If you hear whistling in the woods, no, you didn't."
He goes, and I go, "Why don't you whistle in the woods?" He goes, "Let me tell you." And I'm going to tell you the encounter my dad had with the Kushtaka.
Yeah, please do.
So this was, I want to say he was about 16 or 17. And he lived in Ketchikan, Alaska. And he was going out to either cut wood or something. But he was going out in the woods. And he was just whistling. Now, the woods that he went into backed up near their property. And there was really no easy way to get up in these woods unless you walked through their property to get up into where he was going. And he's walking around this path. He's coming around this bend in this path. And he says, out of nowhere, this man appeared. And he said, my dad said that this guy said, you shouldn't whistle while you're in the woods.
That's not creepy.
And I'm like, what? And then he asks me, he goes, "Son," then he asks me, he goes, "Do you have a cigarette? Do you have tobacco?" And my dad goes, "Yeah." And my dad gave him a cigarette.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, "Thanks." And so he walked by my dad, and he said this guy was tall. Like he had never, and he was kind of beefy. Now, at this time, my dad was 5'7" as an adult, so I can imagine how big my dad was. So this, taller than my dad might be 6'2", 6'3", or whatever. But he said this guy there's something about him, and he turned around to look at the guy one last time, and he saw him walk off of the path, and then was gone.
Just dissipate.
Just gone. And my dad hightailed it back to the house. Yeah, and so he went and he told my grandfather. Just so happens when he had came over there, the the preacher of their church was there,
Mm-hmm.
and one of their native friends was there. And my dad comes running in, and he's freaking out. He's freaking out. And he tells them what happened. And the priest and their native friend told him, you just encountered the Kushtaka. You just encountered the Kushtaka. Now, from what I understand, they're tricksters.
Mm-hmm.
They're shapeshifters, but their primary shape is the otter. They turned into half otter, half man. Fred from Alaska told a story about the Kushtaka on my interview with him, and that was terrifying. So,
yeah, Fred from Alaska is a regular on Sasquatch Odyssey.
Yeah, I love Fred. I love him.
Yeah.
He is amazing, and he's no nonsense guy. If anybody says anything bad about him, then they have problems with themselves, because Fred, he's the real deal.
Mm-hmm.
He is the real deal. So,
well, he's living with these people. I mean, he's getting their encounters straight from them. I mean,
well, he's an elder in his tribe as well.
Right.
So, I mean, people are going to come to him because, one, he's an elder. Two, they can trust him. But he's also got other elders from other tribes coming to him and explaining things and talking stories. There's also another thing, a Sasquatch encounter that my grandfather had. Now, my grandfather was a logger up in Alaska as well. Mm-hmm. And he was working up on the platform, where they have the yarder set up and stuff, the landing. So he's working up at the landing, and at this time, he would limb the trees as they were brought up by the yokers and stuff. The yarder would bring them up to the landing, and then he would just go ahead and he'd limb all these trees, so then they could be put up onto the trucks. And there was probably about, I want to say 4, maybe 5 guys down below, yoking, putting these cables and setting the yokes on these fallen trees. And the yard operator blew the horn to let them know it was like lunchtime. Come up, we'll have some lunch, we'll go back down. And my grandfather said, no sooner did that whistle stop on that yarder that this scream just erupted from the tree line down at the bottom of this hill. Just it was so loud, it was ear piercing, even up where there was like machinery going off. They heard it over the machinery.
Wow.
And those, my dad relayed it for my grandfather. He said, your grandfather, he said he had never seen grown men run up a hill so fast. Now you gotta understand, it's not a clear hill. You got stumps and fallen trees and debris and everything else. He says, these guys, they move so fast. They didn't care if they broke their leg or whatever. They needed to get out of there. My grandfather, he says, your grandfather said, guys, we're done here. Get your gear. Let's go. And they didn't log, that crew did not log that area. They had to send another crew out to finish logging that area.
I don't blame them.
Yeah. So I would love to have an encounter like that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy. So anything else? Yeah.
Let's
what are the people saying?
Well, I mean, our audience loves any aspect of let's reach into your military bag. Okay.
Make it quick. Graduated high school in 1990 from Tennessee, moved back to Washington State. This is how no nonsense my dad was when he picked me up at the Greyhound station. He said I had 6 weeks to find a job or I was going to be homeless.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So my rebuttal was, Dad, I just graduated high school. He's like, that's right. You're 18. You graduate high school. You're a man. Get a job, earn your keep, or get out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Got a job at Dairy Queen. Worked there for about 2 months. Did not like it. Went in, signed up for the Army. They had an issue with my citizenship status. I was born in Belgium, military hospital. They said I was a dual citizen. Was not. They're idiots. The recruiter was, at least. So I went over to the Air Force. He didn't have a problem with anything. I got in, got a guaranteed job, went to the military, Air Force Security Police. First duty assignment was in Norvenich Air Base, Germany. and it was a German Air Force base. We worked at the Fliegelhorst. That's the name of that's what you call the base, the Fliegelhorst. We lived on the Kaserne, which is probably about 20 kilometers, maybe less, between each other.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting in dorm E4, Echo 4, and it was lovingly called the morgue.
Nice.
Yeah. And I'm laughing. I'm like, the morgue, you guys are dumb. And you go down into the basement, and sure enough, there is things down there that points everything that this was a morgue at one time. During World War II, this area was heavily bombed. It's not far from Durin. It's on its way, it's right in the path of a lot of these bombers' flight paths. And sometimes they would drop their bombs early, or they'd come back, were damaged some way, and they would drop their bombs. And this area was bombed. So as you walk into the dormitory, you come into your lobby area, you have a door to your right, you have a door to your left. The door to your right had 4 dorm rooms in it. Now, the lower floor mirrored the second floor. Okay. The only difference was at the top of the landing of the second floor, there was another dorm room directly at the top of the stairs, right across the foyer. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Lower floor, if you turn into your left, that's all the men's dorm with the community bathroom. You go upstairs. Now you're standing at the top of the landing. If you look to your right, again, it's kind of mirrored from the bottom. To the right is now housing for females with their community bathroom. And then over here to the left, just like the bottom floor, there are 4 dorm rooms up there that were for guys. Now, separated by big doors with glass windows. All the female side was all frosted windows, so you couldn't see.
Mm-hmm.
Out of respect for the privacy, okay?
Right, of course.
Now, the upper floor, these 4 dorm rooms, we call it the party palace, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's where we partied. Now, at the end of this, both hallways, end to end, there was a huge window, and the windowsill was so big that you could sit up in it. I used to sit up with my back on one side, my feet pressed up to the other side, window wide open, and not have to worry about falling out unless I lean way over this way. So I get off of working a swing shift, which was 2 to 10, 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. Finally get home about 10:30, quarter to 11. Drop my gear bag, take my BDU blouse off, all my other gear, throw it in my room. And my room was the first door right inside the dorm on the left-hand side. So you open up this door, you make an immediate left, and my room is right there. So I'm sitting up there and I'm sitting there and my buddy he's like, Hamilton, you want something to drink? I go, yeah, I'll take a Jack and Coke. He's like, all right, cool. Mm-hmm. So he takes out this 32-ounce tumbler and he pours some Jack in it.
He empties the bottle in it.
And then he pours some Coke in there.
Oh, no.
I'm not paying attention to this. So he gives me this drink and I take a big swig of it. My sinuses instantly cleared. My throat was on fire. And I go, man, this is too strong. I can't drink this. He's like, you're going to drink it or I'm going to make you drink it. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm going to drink it. So what I do is I'd sit up in this windowsill and dump a little bit out the window,
Smart.
Every so often. But I'm sitting up there and we had this beer sign that was on the wall. And it was just like flickering and just this neon sign was just flickering and like it was cutting in and out. And out of nowhere, my buddy who made the drink goes, demons, be gone. And it turned on and then turned off. Right?
Yeah.
And we're like, what the heck just happened? So I'm kind of looking now. This has my entire attention. Everybody else is drinking, having a good time, walking in and out of the rooms, listening to music. And I'm fixated on this beer sign. Something's not right with this beer sign.
Mm-hmm.
So I go and I look, and right behind where this table was, this beer sign was up on the wall underneath this table. The beer sign was never plugged in.
No kidding.
It was never plugged in.
Wow.
And I'm like, you guys, this beer sign's not plugged in. Like, oh, you just unplug. Oh, bro, I did not unplug. This thing was not plugged in. And then my buddy goes, see, I exorcised the demons. Well, a month or so later, same scenario, pretty much the same people up there doing what we're doing. I'm sitting in the same area, probably drinking another drink that he made. Sip, toss,
Right.
And I look out just in time to see something or someone walk up the stairs, like come up to the top of the stairs, walk right across the landing and right in to that dormitory room that was right there at the top of the landing. And the guy that's room was in there, he was in the area. And I'm like, bro, I said, somebody just went in your room, man. Is your room, did you have to leave your door open? He's like, no, my key's right here. I go, man, someone just walked into your room. He's like, man, shut the F up, Hamilton. No one, blah, blah, blah. And another one of my buddies there were like, what did you see, Hamilton? I go, I saw like this tall, it sounds funny, like a cloaked figure, like he had a hoodie on or something. And he walked in the room and everybody just like literally stopped. And like, dude, you need to check out your room right now. And he's like, oh, you guys are messing with me because I'm new and blah, blah, blah. Like, no, you need to check your room out right now. And I looked at my other buddy. I go, dude, did I just see what I thought I saw? He goes, oh, yeah, you saw him. You saw the phantom.
No way.
This guy, I'm getting goosebumps. I'm telling you guys.
That is creepy.
You don't have to believe me if you don't want to. I'm here telling you as I'm sitting, as much as I'm sitting talking to you guys, this kid opened up his dorm room and it looked like a tornado went through his room.
Wow.
Like stuff was tipped over, stuff was piled in the middle of his floor. Like legit, everything in his drawers were like just like someone was in there just throwing stuff up. It was trashed. This dude gets mad at me because he thinks that I did it. I'm like, dude, what do you mean I did it? He's like, you had someone, bro. And everybody's like, dude, no, man, you need to get out of that room.
No way.
Like seriously, because that's the phantom. That's the phantom. He's visited your room. That's not going to be the last time you see him if you don't get out of that room.
So he was familiar around the area then.
Oh, that wasn't the only time that I saw him. That was not the only time that I saw him. I was up in this area. I was hanging out with my buddies. We weren't having a party. I was up in his room. We used to play this game kind of like Stratego or something like that, but it was, I think it was called like 1944 or something like that, where you could pick the Axis or the Allies, and then you literally went through each date and would build up, and try to, you're like reliving World War II,
right?
And you're one side, you're fighting, you're making things, and if you do the wrong thing, you could, it's how you win the war, whatever. But I said, hey, I'm heading over to the club. I'm gonna get something to eat. Do you want to go with me? He's like, yeah, I'll see you in a minute. I'll be over there in a little bit. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I go out the doors. Now, all these doors are these heavy doors. It has that bar that you push in.
Yeah.
And so when the doors open or close. So I open the door and I start to go down and I hear something. And I can look over the banister and I can look straight down to the basement floor. And I see this hand on the banister. And then it was coming up this.
No, thank you.
I have a chill in me right now. I'm telling you, like I'm. This thing was moving so fast up there that I saw this black cloak, and I went running back in, and went right into my buddy's room and shut his door and locked. I said, "Dude, it's coming up the stairs right now." He's like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "The phantom. That phantom's coming up the stairs." She's like, "Dude, don't say anything." Like we believed, we knew that this thing was real.
For sure. Well, and you know what? That would be a whole bunch of none of my business right there. Just stay out there.
The weird thing is that it never went into any of the areas where the dorm rooms were. Never did. Never did.
That is
Which
wild.
it only was in, it would only go the stairways, and it went into that one room that was at the top of the stairway. That's it.
Then that one room was attached to like the party palace.
No, so
that was separate.
So I'll try to kind of make you. So if you kind of look like here, okay, so over here where the doors was where all the females were.
Mm-hmm.
Over here was where all the party palace was, like the
Okay.
4 rooms. Now, right in between these was a room.
Mm-hmm.
Now, after that incident, and this kid's like, I need to move dorms, they actually turned that room into a storage area.
Smart.
Yeah. But again, it was that was freaky because I saw it coming up the stairs, and it was like moving. It wasn't running, but it was moving at a quick pace coming up the stairs. I got down maybe 2 steps from the top floor. I heard a noise. I looked down and I see that hand on the banister, and then I see it again coming up real quick. So it was it was at the lower landing, getting ready to come up to the main floor. So it was literally, like 2 stairways below me. And I ran in there, and me and my buddy, man, we hung out in his room for probably, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes, and then we creaked open the door. And about that time, we saw one of the other guys come walking through the door like nothing happened. So we're like, okay, good. We're safe.
It didn't eat him. We're good.
Yeah, we're good to go. We're good to go there. But the buddy who made my drink, he was a pretty stocky guy, really athletic, very, very strong, powerful guy, played football, wrestling. And one night, we hear him losing his mind. Get the F off me. Don't touch me. Get out of here. Get out of here. And we're thinking he's drunk. Right? We try to open up his door. We can't open his door.
Oh, no.
I pushed somebody into one of these other doors just goofingly, just goofing off, and we popped the door open. You got 2 grown men ramming their shoulders into this door. This door is not budging.
That's scary.
They pop this door. Now, I come up after this happens, okay? And I see the state of what he is, and it looked like he was in a boxing match with somebody.
Wow.
Bloodied face was swollen, scratch marks on his face. They said, and I wouldn't have believed it if I didn't see it, they had to pull the bed out from the wall because they found him, his feet were up on the bed. He was pushed down between the wall and the bed. Like he was fighting for his life.
That's terrifying.
Yeah. So am I saying that's the Phantom? No, I'm not saying that's the Phantom, but it was something.
It was something. Well, and the fact that y'all couldn't even get the door open.
Oh, yeah.
Something.
The buddy that I hid in his room because I saw a thing coming up the stairs. He woke up one night freaking out, and he saw a disembalmed head floating above his face, like inches from his face. Just talking gibberish or whatever, and it freaked him out as well. Needless to say, after that, all those, I think I stayed in that dormitory for about 7-8 months, maybe 9 months, and so I moved to the other side of the base, where our PX, which is kind of like a military store, base exchange, was in the basement of where we were, and I didn't have any incidents or issues in that dormitory. But yeah, while I was working over at the Fliegelhorst, again, I worked primarily swing and mids. So my shifts were either from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. or 10 p.m. to 6 a.m.
Yeah.
There'd be times where I'm working a mid shift, and me and my partner were sitting out near the flight line and just chilling, not doing anything. Peaceful night. All of a sudden, you hear a prop plane, a piston-driven prop plane fly over. Me being in the military, me being in the Air Force, I have a huge love for aircraft. These were Messerschmitt 109s. Focal Wolves BF 140s. Occasionally you'd hear like a B-17 or B-17s flying over. You look up, there's nothing there, but you hear them.
That's crazy. So it's just that residual energy left.
There was a time where again, I was the team leader and my team member was with me. Unfortunately, the German security forces, their version of ours, we were called ART teams, alarm response teams. They were on foot. They had to walk the entire area, whether it was raining, snowing. Well, we felt bad for those guys.
Yeah.
We had a vehicle. There'd be every once in a while, you know, we weren't supposed to, but we'd let them get in and ride around with us and stuff like that. Understand that the German military primarily is conscripts. You know, they have a duty to their country. They have to serve a mandatory like 2 or 3 years of military service, and then if they want to stay in, they got to go like kind of before a board to become what they call professional military.
Right.
But a lot of these guys, man, and it's funny, they're dressed in appearance, long hair, you know, scraggly beards, you know, they just don't care, you know. They looked at us in awe because we're professional soldiers, you know, we're professional military, you know, no beards, no mustaches, high and tights, you know, we look sharp, right? So this one night we're going through this one area, and I was working a mid shift, and I just catch this flashlight flash like out of the corner of my eye, and I'm like, "Did you just see that?" He's like, "Yeah." He goes, "Like someone was like hiding in those bushes right there, like flashing, trying to flash us down." I'm like, "I'm telling you, man, if it's our area supervisor, he's trying to play games with this, man. He's gonna get it." Because this is a huge area, and we would do stupid stuff. We'd play flashlight tag, you know. We take our vehicles, we park them in a dark area, and then someone drive by, we hit them with our brights. Oh, tag, you're it, and then we take off again. Just doing stupid stuff. If we would have been caught by our supervisors doing this type of stuff, you know, we would have been in some deep stuff. You know, I probably wouldn't have made it, you know, the 5 years that I was in. I'd probably been out like year 3, you know. But anyway, so I whipped the combi around. It's a Volkswagen bus. We call them combi. Whip them around, and I bring my lights up, and I see them now. They're just flashing the light like crazy. So I stop, and I'm like, you know, was ist los? You know, like, what's up? What's going on? And they start speaking, you know, just mad crazy German to me. Ich spreche ein bisschen Deutsch. I speak a little German. I don't speak enough. These guys are and they're going
right. Yeah.
Well, my team member, he married a German girl, so he pretty much spoke almost fluent German. He's like, "Dude, they're freaking out about something." I go, "What are they talking about?" He said, like a ghost, like a phantom. And I go, "What?" And so we don't even invite them into the vehicle. They just help themselves. They get in and they are like, these, you know, when you see someone who's scared, someone make you be upset. This was terror.
Oh man.
Like this was legit terror. And now it started kind of freaking me out too. I got 2 grown men who are freaking out, and they're scared. And I'm starting to get a little freaked out.
Exactly.
And he's getting a little information from them, and they're saying over by this area as they were walking by, and over here they have trees and small little forests everywhere on base. They build their structures in and amongst these trees for camouflage. Okay. So as they're going through one of these areas or by one of these hardened aircraft structures, they hear, "Psst, psst, come and see here. Come and see here." And whatever else they were saying. But it was like very guttural, like, "Come and see here," or whatever, right? And that's all I understood. Like, "Hey, come here." You know, and I'm like, "What?" And so I'm like, show us where. So, you know, I'm 20 years old. I'm a big bad American. You know, I got a black vest on. I got helmet on now. I got a M16. I'm ready to rock and roll.
Let's go.
I'm a small arms expert. You know, I'm expert marksman. You know, and so I'm like, let's rock and roll.
Right.
And they're like, no, 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 no. I'm like, no, we're going, man. Someone's in our area. They shouldn't be in this area. I'm fixing to jack somebody up.
Mm-hmm.
So we pull up and they tell us, and we pull up and me. So here's the trees, right? Here's the trees. Let me get you here. So here's the trees. I pull right up.
Yeah.
And I'm like maybe from the front of our combi to where the grass line is maybe 25 feet.
Mm-hmm.
From where the grass starts to where the edge of the woods are is like another 15, 20 feet. So you're looking about 35, maybe 40 feet from the front of my vehicle to the tree line. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I get out and they're like begging me. They're begging both of us, don't get out, don't get out, don't get out. And I'm like, are you ready, man? He's like, yep, I'm ready. So I go walking out and now I'm honestly believing someone's out there. So I rack it up. And I'm like, hey, mother effer. Hey, what the hell? Come and see here, Schnell. Come and see here. Or she's or I'll shoot. Come here, and I'm not hearing nothing. When I'm saying I'm not hearing nothing, I'm like hearing nothing.
Right.
There's no insects. There's no, nocturnal animals moving around. I ain't afraid of no ghost. And I'm like, I am full of piss and vinegar. I'm invincible. I'm 20 years old. You're right. I ain't afraid of no ghost.
Mm-hmm.
I take about 10 steps. So I'm right at the edge of this grass from the flight line to the grass. And I look at my partner and he looks at me. I go, dude, we need to get the hell out of here.
Oh, no.
And he looks at me. He's like, you feel that too? I go, bro, I have a feeling that if I take a step off of this flight line, we are in trouble.
Oh, wow.
And granted, we have the headlights on bright.
Right.
We can see you could see into the forest, but not all the way into the forest.
It was just beyond.
Yes. And I'm like, man, I'm not feeling this, man. And so we started bounding over, watching backwards.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, it was only like 15, 20 feet, but still we would move. And when I turned around the first time and looked, my German counterparts were laid out on the ground with their weapons pointing towards that forest. They were covering us as we got back into the combi.
So did they see something?
No, they heard it.
Mm-hmm.
They heard it, and it literally froze them, and they took off running. And where we found them,
mm-hmm.
to where this took place was like an eighth of a mile.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just a straight shot. We had to go this way, then go around this way, then come in, take this way. It wasn't a straight shot. These guys ran, and like seriously, they were hiding in like a little crop of trees that was right pretty close to the flight line. It's just there's maybe 8 or 9 trees and some bushes, and they were hiding inside there. They were freaked out.
Well, I didn't know if they had just heard it or if they saw something in conjunction with hearing it as to why they were so freaked out. That's why I was.
Sometimes what you don't see is more terrifying.
Amen. Amen.
So that pretty much happened. What happened to me in Germany? After Germany, I got stationed at FE Warren Air Force Base, and FE Warren Air Force Base is insanely haunted. It is documented.
Mm-hmm.
Haunts on that base is documented. This base goes back to like the mid 1800s. This was a pioneer fort. It was an army post. Buffalo soldiers were there at one time. This base was put in place to protect people migrating from east to go out to west.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. One of the most famous or infamous ghosts there is the ghost of Fam Camp.
Mm-hmm.
Fam Camp is an area. It's like a little camping area on base. I know of people who had motorhomes, and mostly it's like NCOs, senior NCOs that as he was in the army, he was told me tells. I'm gonna tell you right now, there is oh my gosh, the Morbach monster. Supposed to be a werewolf. We did a live. Josh and I did a live on the Moorbach Monster. There's also an incident in, I want to say it's Bentwaters, England. It's supposed to be England's version of Roswell. I was asking some Facebook groups that I belong to, security police groups, and they're all private. So if you have no affiliation with the Air Force as being active duty or being a security police officer, good luck trying to get in, because you'll be denied. You have to have that lineage in order to get in there. I started asking questions about it. I got a couple of direct messages. Stop asking questions. You don't need to be digging in on this.
Wow. So, and that was what I was going to ask you. And we're already almost an hour and a half in, but I could talk to you forever. But that's what I was going to ask you is how, like, if they found out that you guys had experienced that, I mean, would they, your higher ups listen to you, or would you get kicked out?
So I've been out since 1995, so I think I'm safe to say I worked around nuclear weapons. I guarded nukes. Okay. You have a top secret clearance, and you also have a thing called the Personal Reliability Program, PRP. If you get your PRP status revoked, you pretty much cannot work.
Oh.
So a lot of people keep their mouth shut.
Right.
Okay.
Understood.
So, like I said, I was asking questions about that incident in England, and I was told you need to stop asking questions. You just need to shut up, stop digging. When I went back to reply, because I saw him pop up, and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to say nothing. But then, a couple of days there, I was kind of pissed off about it. I was like, Bulk, come on now. This is, this is like 35, 40, 50 years ago. I'm going to talk. I want to know about it. The profile that those were sent from, gone.
Wow.
Could not even open up the message. This was like 2 or 3 days after this. You couldn't, not available, whatever, you go on a profile. Oh, sorry, something's happened.
Right.
Couldn't even do it, which is crazy. So, we've been on here for a while. I'm going to get to probably one of the scariest things that happened to me in the military. Again, FE Warren Air Force Base used to be an Army post. If anybody knows anything about military, especially Army, they have cemeteries on their posts.
Right.
Okay. If you were an Air Force Base, being an Army post at one time has a cemetery. Okay. I was working a relief officer. I was working law enforcement that night. I was a security cop. At this time, when I was in, it was two sides of security police. It was a security specialist who went out and watched alert bombers, weapon storage areas, missile sites. And then you had your law enforcement specialists, which were pretty much your base cops. They manned the gates primarily. They drove around in cruisers. They wrote tickets. They investigated shoplifting, theft, all that type of stuff. Okay.
Right.
So I'm working augmentee, which means they needed help on the LE side. So they picked me. I'm like, okay, cool. Hamilton, you're going to be a relief officer. Draw your 9, draw your vehicle. Did the whole checks. They gave us a little briefing. They're like, hey, if you drive by the cemetery at all, just kind of keep your eyes out. We had a report of people being in there after dark.
Right.
No problem. This is probably late November, early December timeframe. I can't remember, but the thing I remember the most, it was a full moon. And there was snow on the ground. The air was so clean and so crisp. You could smell it, and it just felt like you were getting instantly recharged. That's how pure and crisp this air was. And as I'm driving, I just glance over, and I see someone standing in the cemetery. And I'm like, oh, here we go. I'm not going to call it in. I'm just going to go by. I'm going to get out. I'm like, hey, y'all get out of here. And they're going to leave. No big deal. They're not, they weren't doing anything. They were just standing there. So as I pull up, I get out of my cruiser and I'm walking, and I see this lady standing in the cemetery. I'm like, ma'am, you can't be in here. I said, it's like 2 a.m. You need to go. And she's like, uh, uh, she's just looking at me, and I'm like, ma'am, you can't be in here. You got to go. And she turns at me, and she's wearing like period clothing.
Oh no.
And I kind of look, and about that time, I feel like wetness like hit my face, like snow had been blown up in my face or something. The next thing I remember, I hear police 5 radio check, police 5 radio check, and I reach over and I grab my shoulder mic and I go, police 5 all secure. Copy that, police 5 all secure. Then I realize I'm laying on my back.
Oh my goodness.
And I had this chill in my body that I don't know what it is.
Do you think she walked through you and just...
I think she did something to me, because honestly, when I realized when this radio check had taken place, it had been like 45 minutes.
Oh my.
And I got up, kind of looked around, and realized there was one set of footprints in the snow, and they were mine. I went back to the cruiser, sat down, and had to take stock of everything that just happened. What happened to me? Did I faint? I don't get it. I never reported it, because if I'd have got taken off PRP, I'd have been picking up garbage or working in supply or something like that. So that's probably one of the craziest things that's happened to me when I was in the military.
That's insane. But like you said, we've been on here for an hour and 26 minutes.
Yeah.
So we can get to some of these questions that you have.
Sure.
There's a few here.
Sure.
And then I want to be respectful of your time, but at the same time, I could listen to you talk about all your encounters for like...
I'm here as long as you want me here, and you're awesome listeners. If you guys, as long as you want me on there, so...
Well, we can definitely do a part 2, because I know Wayne would really enjoy talking to you.
Sure.
About your Bigfoot encounters mainly. I'm the paranormal chick on the show. He's the Bigfoot guy. So we kind of balance each other out.
Sure.
Let's see. First off, Goona Goo Goo, thank you for the super sticker. And also, Goona Goo Goo asked you, Capitol Forest, was that where you were? And talking about your first story where your boots got untied.
I don't know. Like I said, I was just a small kid. So all I know, it was like north of Aberdeen, like northwest of Aberdeen a little bit, maybe northeast. Again, it's a couple hour drive, and then like an hour hike into the woods. So
Gotcha.
Again, I was so young, I don't really remember. Sorry.
It's okay. Crystal Blevins wanted to know, because you were talking about the whistling incident. So she said, was you in Appalachia too?
No. I've like I said, when I lived in West Virginia, I don't know. I mean, I used to hang out in the woods and stuff like that. I grew up a Mormon, and so I was doing a lot of stuff I shouldn't have been doing as a Mormon as a kid. I was listening to rock and roll music. I thank my older cousin for introducing me to Queen and Zeppelin and Floyd and things like that. So we used to have to go up in the woods, up in the hills, with a little tape recorder, battery operated tape recorder, and we'd listen to Queen and things like that. So, but was it part of Appalachia? I really don't know.
Okay. Troy in Tennessee, have you been to Potsdamer Platz?
I have not. I've heard of that, but I have not.
Okay. And then Ristel said, Daniel, were you stationed anywhere near Celis? I think that's how you say that.
I don't even know where that is.
So that would be a no.
Is what kind of base is it? Air Force base, Army base? Where I was stationed in Germany was Norwich Air Base, Germany. We were 60 kilometers away from Bonn. The closest big city to us was Cologne. And within an hour's drive, we could be in Belgium, Luxembourg, France, or Holland. So we were like in a west central area of Germany.
Got you. And Troy, in Tennessee, how many battlefields have you been to?
I have been to Shiloh like 6 times. First time I was a freshman in high school, I was with the Boy Scouts. Yes, I had some weird encounters there, which is fantastic. And then I visited them as an adult and had a couple of crazy encounters while I was an adult as well.
Awesome. And Troy, bringing in the last question, do you believe there is a government cover-up on the existence of the being known as Bigfoot?
Yes, I absolutely do. I believe they know. I believe that in bases such as Joint Base McCord-Lewis, which is right there in Tacoma, Washington, that military base is gigantic. It covers tons and tons of land. I truly believe that they know there are Sasquatch in that area. Too many reports come out of that area and in and around that area. Same thing up in New Jersey, like Fort Dix and McGuire Air Force Base, which is now Joint Base Dix McGuire or McGuire Dix or something like that. Around the Pine Barrens. That's where I had an encounter in the Pine Barrens at one time. So yeah, they're definitely not only just Bigfoot. I think that they know there is Dogman. Too many things have now been released by the U.S. government regarding UFOs or IFAs or whatever they call them. They're UFOs. Too many actual gun cameras from Navy pilots, and then video of things coming in and out of the water, not only from civilians but also from military ships as well.
Yeah. So we're gonna have to have you back because, I mean, I know you haven't had an encounter with Dogman, but you share a similar interest in it that I do, and there's just questions. There's questions.
Well,
so
I mean, I had an encounter with something, and I believe it was just a wolf. But I've never seen a wolf that big in my life. My wife and I were coming back from Bay City, Michigan. We were traveling up through the UP, and we were just west of Escanaba. It was about 1 or 2 in the morning, and it was really foggy this time. And we were the only ones on the road, and I see something moving in this fog. It wasn't a dense fog, and I see something. So I hit my brights, and of course it washes out everything. So I turn them off. I have my driving lights on. And as I'm moving up, I start slowing down because I see this thing moving through this fog, and it starts coming out a little bit. And I come to a stop. And this was the biggest wolf I had ever seen in my life. And I mean, I drive a 1500 Chevy Silverado.
Right.
Quad cab, crew cab. If this thing wanted to walk up to the front of my truck, it could have rested its chin on the hood of my truck with no problem. And it stopped in the middle of the road, and I'm stopped. My wife is sound asleep next to me. I'm looking at this wife, and I'm looking at this wolf. I'm not going to lie. This was a magnificent animal. This animal was absolutely beautiful. When you see something like this, man, I just wanted to get out and give him a big old hug on that. Oh, I want to hug you.
This is why we always die in the movies.
Exactly. But it looked at me like, yeah. And then just slowly walked off on the other side of the road, off into the woods. I told Josh about this, and then just something. One of his interviews made me want to Google map this. I Google mapped it, went to satellite view, and I'll be darned, this thing was leaving the vicinity of a graveyard.
Why? Why are they always in graveyards?
I have no clue, but it was like legit. It came right from that area, and it just did his own thing. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding?
Okay.
That was bananas. And I'm like, whew. So, yeah.
That's
Do I wish it was a Dogman? Yes, but if I was way, way, way further back,
Exactly.
But up
Because
to
if
that
it-
close,
yeah,
I'm
if it
glad it
had,
was a wolf.
yeah, if it had that stance and that height, I mean, imagine it on its hind feet.
It was massive.
Yeah.
Just honestly, it looked like a small bear. That's how big it was. It was huge.
So you think maybe it was a dire wolf?
Oh, I hope so.
That would be
Oh my
sweet.
gosh! I'm telling you right now, if I could find a dire wolf and get a dire wolf as a pet, there'd be so many missing people around me. It would be funny. I'm telling you, man.
But you'd be like, damn it, it's mine.
I will put that wolf on people so bad. I'm telling you. What'd you say? I'm a what? Get him.
Sick 'em, Dano.
Get him. That's what I call him, Dano. Get him, Dano. Sick him.
That's right. See?
So.
Well, I've enjoyed having you on. I would love to have you back.
Sure.
I would absolutely love to do that. I know you're super busy with your show and then with Josh, but let's just keep in touch and we can get you back on.
You can schedule me for whenever. I will make it work. We still got to go over my rake or crawler experience, whatever you want to call that.
I know. There's so many.
My Sasquatch sighting.
Yes.
Let's see what else is. Myrtle and Irene.
Oh, yes, because I heard a portion of Myrtle and Irene.
Mm-hmm.
So
the time I got yoked off my bed.
Yep, we can throw that in there too.
Legit. I was about 400 pounds at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I got yoked up off my bed like I was a rag doll.
Yep. We will have to get you back on. I just completely filled up February, but we have 3 Tuesdays and 1 Saturday left for March.
What's the Saturday?
Hold on, I'll tell you. We'll just go ahead and we'll just schedule you now. The Saturday. It's loading, y'all. I'm sorry. My phone's slow. It is we can do the 8th or we can do the 29th. So 2 Saturdays, the 8th or the 29th.
Lock it in for the 8th because
Bet.
I'm going to be traveling through the UP on the 29th. So maybe I'll see a dog, man. You never know.
Maybe.
Hey, Michigan Dogman since 1887.
Yes.
I'm telling you.
Wexford, Michigan.
Yep.
I'm here to tell you. I know when I was doing my book, Dogman Terror in the Woods, it's fictional, but I did so much research because even though it's a fictional book, you still want to have the, like the details and the height and you want to have all this stuff as accurate as possible.
Yeah.
Because you want it to feel real.
Yeah. I just found out a few weeks ago that Doug Hychek lives in my area.
Mm-hmm.
If I heard somewhere that he lives like White Bear Lake, Minnesota.
Yes.
That's literally, that's like 2 minutes from my house. And he's had an encounter, an actual sighting in an area I know very well.
You should reach out to him and have him on
I don't
your
know
show.
how to. What's the easiest way? I would love to have Mr. Hychek on my show.
I can send you his information.
You're a darling. Also, there has been a few sightings. You're familiar with Jeremiah Byron, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
His most recent episode, well, not most recent, but it's like probably the last 5 or 6 episodes, Rice Creek. That area, I've camped in that area many, many times with my family. I'm familiar with that. I've driven my truck out there, rode my bike all over the area. And there's been sightings in that area, Centerville, Minnesota, which is super close to where I'm at. My buddy Charlie, who's a stand-up comedian, believes he saw a Wendigo. And when he's describing the area, I know exactly where that area is. And sometime between now and probably April, him and I are going to go out to Rice Creek. We're going to investigate areas. So hopefully I'll have some video to put on my channel. I hope we find something. Not necessarily a sighting, but some evidence would be really, really great, because Jeremiah had a guy on there who had the sighting. And then if I could talk to Mr. Hijack, because I think what he was describing is Goose Lake, because he's mentioned the water ski show.
Yeah.
And I know exactly where that is. So if you could send me his information, we're friends on Facebook. It's just he seems so busy. I don't know if he'd ever get a chance to.
So yeah, he is so busy. But I just spoke to him on Facebook today because he did the 30-second spot for Dogman Terror in the Woods, and then The Unfamiliars, the other book that I had written. So it's just catching him. But yeah, I can give you his information.
Because I could probably meet him, buy him lunch, talk about it, get him on my show.
Shoot, boy, y'all could just sit down and, just make a day of it with Doug.
That would be awesome.
That would be stellar.
I'm gonna tell you right now, I was a little apprehensive about coming on here. It's I didn't really know a lot about it, honestly, but I'm glad I did, man. And you guys are I believe you're all encompassed in, Brian's community.
Yeah, we're under the same umbrella of Paranormal World Production Studios.
Yeah.
So it's our show, Paranormal Odyssey, Sasquatch Odyssey. Him and Danny are working on, then they're revamping True Crime Odyssey.
Yeah.
So we're all under that Bigfoot podcast.
Yeah.
So we're all in the same umbrella.
So I not on here, but through Messenger, I'll talk to you about a couple other things and see what we can get going on.
Yeah. I would like that very much. And I'm glad that you gave us a shot. And I mean, we're not everybody's cup of tea, but I drink coffee. So it's fine.
I drink Diet Mountain Dew, Pepsi Zero. So,
Yeah. Oh, I appreciate you coming on. And
everybody, I had a great time. I'm kind of looking over here and seeing all the people in here. Hey, you guys, thank you so much for allowing me to come on here and tell you my stories, whether you believe them or not. Hey, that's on you. I'm not here to try to convince you of anything. So, these are experiences that I've had, encounters that I've had, things that up until a few years ago, I never talked about. Now, that I have talked about, I feel a little more comfortable. It gives me a little bit of therapy. Know that my show, the Cryptid Podcast, if anybody on here that sees this live or on a replay, if you'd like to be on the show, can I go ahead and?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You can promote yourself, anything you have going on.
So I know myself, and I know another really cool guy, Josh Smith. His show is the Mysteries Unknown. And his email, I believe, is mysteriesunknownpodcast@gmail.com. Mine is the Cryptid Podcast 72@gmail.com. And you guys, it's a safe place for you to come. If you have an encounter that you have not shared with anybody, you want to kind of get it off your chest, you can email us and just say, hey, I don't want to come on camera. I just want this out here. You guys can read it on your show if you want to, or if you'd like to come on either one of the shows, just shoot us an email and we'd love to have you on. Your comfort and security is our number one goal. We want to make sure that you guys feel safe and know that we're your gatekeepers of your stories. And if you get a chance to catch our live every Thursday at 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, join the chat. And we're very, very engaging with our chat. Our chat talks amongst each other. They crack jokes. They ask great questions. They give us great suggestions. And I can be found on Instagram. I can be found on Spotify. I can be found on TikTok. Now, my TikTok and Spotify are relatively new. So I'm still trying to get stuff. I'm not sure what to share on there. I don't know. I'm still trying to learn shorts and things like that. I'm an old man, so I don't get all that type of stuff. I'd rather be right here with you face to face.
Right.
So Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. I do have a page on Facebook, the Cryptid Podcast. Not a lot of traction on there. I just post things. I got a live show coming up. I have a new episode coming up. Things like that. And again, I'm working on trying to get on IMDb podcast and Apple. iHeartRadio podcast. I'm working on that too. So
Sweet. Yes. And if you guys go back through the chat, like if you watch this on the replay, or if you're listening to it on podcast and you will also see all of his links have been put in the chat room periodically throughout the show. And we'll have your links attached to the podcast when it goes out in a few days.
Perfect.
So everybody will be able to reach you that way as well.
Perfect. Well, you picked up a new sub because I subbed. I got you guys up right over here on my laptop, so
Thanks.
I subbed. So I'm definitely going to be following you guys. And again,
awesome.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
It was my pleasure.
Yeah. And don't forget, you guys, if you haven't already, hit the like button on here, hit the share button when you can, and on my podcast as well. If you feel that I've earned it, please subscribe, like, comment, share. Hit that notifications, let you know that I'm always putting something new every Monday and Wednesday. Wednesday may change, but for sure every Monday and Wednesday I put new content up. And then every Thursday I'm a co-host on Mysteries Unknown when we do our live podcast.
Perfect. Well, thank you again for coming on, and we will see you March 8th at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central.
Awesome. Tiffany is a great interview. Thank you so much.
Oh, and thank you.
You guys have an amazing weekend, everybody. Take care, everybody.
All right. Have a good night.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Amazing. I'm so excited about that. I'm so excited that he's coming back so soon because I know Wayne is he's just chilling in that cabin, drinking his whiskey neat. And he's like, man, if I were there, I would have asked him this or this or this. Well, guess what, buddy? You ain't here. So I get to do it. So thank you all always for the support and the love and the respect and the questions. You guys never cease to amaze us. And I hope that you all have a very good night. And we'll see you Tuesday. Thank you so much again. And have a good one.